For the world you love, your will be done. Let your will be done in me. For you and you alone. Awake my soul, and sing.
The topic we're going to be discussing in our Connect groups this evening is honesty. And I want us to approach honesty and our discussion of it by beginning with a couple of anecdotes. One about dishonesty and one about honesty, and then make a couple of brief observations. Dishonesty, brothers and sisters, is a horrible thing. I think sometimes we don't realize the damage that dishonesty does, the way it wrecks lives and wrecks relationships, the way it destroys trust and just disrupts all kinds of things. Let me give you an example, real life, that I just learned about a couple of weeks ago. I've got a good friend who called me distraught. He had had his identity stolen by somebody, somewhere. He had no idea that anything was going on until his wife charged some things from a company back east. And when he got the bill on the items that she had charged, there was an extra $1,000 stuck onto the bill. So he calls his company, and they refused to cooperate, denied that they had done anything wrong, said that his wife had authorized this charge and all that. And so he went to find a lawyer to see what he could do. The lawyer recommended that he look into his credit score and look into his history and make sure that nothing else had been messed with. But when he did, to his horror, he found that somebody had created several charge accounts in his name and had opened a line of credit with a large bank in the Middle East, of all places, and that he was looking at thousands upon thousands upon thousands of dollars of charges and loans that he was going to be expected to pay. When he asked the lawyer, what should I do? The lawyer said, well, in all honesty, I've dealt with some other people who have faced similar situations. And he said, I'm not saying that long term we might not be able to deal with a lot of this, but he said, honestly, your best option is just to close every account you have and declare bankruptcy. Because it will be simpler and easier in the long run. Because he was looking at an enormous amount of money that he was going to have to stand good for. He was all tore up, and I understand. I mean, I felt so sorry for him. He hadn't done anything. I mean, he's a very, very honest guy. And somebody had come along and got a hold of, I don't know what they got a hold of, Social Security numbers, credit card numbers, something, enough that they could do this. And so here's this anonymous person off somewhere who has basically disrupted, I wouldn't say destroyed, but really disrupted this man's life. And it's just cruel, and it's unfair, and it's wrong. But that's dishonesty, brother, and that's what it does. On the other hand, a little couple that I love very much took their car into a oil change place to get the oil changed. When they drove the car away, they noticed the transmission seemed to be slipping, and there was just all kinds of problems with the car, and they couldn't figure out what was going on. Well, when they took it to a local mechanic, and he kind of scratched his head over it and recommended that they take it back to this oil change place, and so they did. The guy at the oil change place drove the car around, came back and said, we messed up. It's our fault. I had a couple of guys down in the pit changing the oil. They really didn't know what they were doing. And they emptied the transmission fluid out of your transmission instead of the oil out of the oil pan, and then they poured the fresh oil in on top of the dirty oil. And he said, hey, not your fault. I'll fix it. I'll stand good for whatever it takes to make it right. And he did. And not only that, But he told him afterwards, he said, and your next oil change, and I want you to come back, is on me. It's going to be free. Now, that oil change place had royally messed up. But this couple will continue to take their car to that place to get the oil changed because they trust that owner. That guy is very, very honest. And honesty produces loyalty, doesn't it? When you know that you can trust somebody, you value that highly when you know that they're honest. All of us really look for and would love to have an honest mechanic, an honest plumber, an honest electrician, an honest doctor. I mean, that means a great, great deal to us to be able to trust someone that way. And so honesty produces fruit that is the very opposite of dishonesty, but produces a fruit that's beautiful in many ways. Now, let me make a couple of observations about that. First of all, brothers and sisters, it's very, very important in our relationship with each other that we be honest. And I'll be honest with you. Very often we're not honest. You've had a rough week, you've got problems with your kids, or problems with your finances, or problems with your health. And somebody comes up to you and sincerely asks you how you doing, and you say fine and blow them off and go on, and you just lied to them. You weren't honest. Things aren't going well. They're not. And you really need somebody to bear your burdens. In Galatians chapter 6, verse 2, Paul encourages us to bear one another's burdens. And in the process of that, fulfill the law of Christ, which is the law of agape. It's the law of love. But you see, I can't help you shoulder your burdens, and it's a privilege to do that. Okay? I can't help you shoulder your burdens if I don't know what those burdens are. If you're not honest about those burdens. And too often, out of pride or whatever, we're not. And then a second observation about honesty is it's in honesty that we also find accountability. You see, you can't hold me accountable to do the right thing, to deal with the struggle perhaps that I have, if I'm not honest with you about that. At the same time, please understand that honesty in dealing with others and their weaknesses needs to be placed in the context of kindness and gentleness and love. In fact, that's exactly the context in which Paul will place it in Galatians 6, verse 2. There are people who use honesty as kind of a blunt instrument to beat other people up. Well, you know, I was just being honest with them. That's just the way I am. I just tell it straight. No, you're just being mean. And you're using somebody else's weakness to beat on them. And that's not right. That's not what honesty is to be all about. Yes, we need to be honest with each other, but we need to be loving and caring and gentle within the context of that, because it's in that context that we will share with one another in an open and caring and loving way, and we'll be able to minister to each other and help each other. And that's what these connect groups are all about. These connect groups, bottom line, are about our developing a stronger connection with each other, a stronger connection with our God. The ultimate goal of these connect groups is we get to go to heaven together. We all get to be with the same Father in the same place, ultimately at the same time. And what a wonderful, wonderful thing that will be. And so I would encourage you in your discussion of honesty this evening to be honest with one another. Now let's be honest about how important honesty is. God bless. Thank you.
In our hearts,